From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios,
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, everybody. Good evening once again. This is crazy. 2 live streams in one night. I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves, but this is a little bit of an autopsy, if you will, a post-mortem.
Nice. Nice. And it's kind of appropriate, yes.
Yeah. A post-mortem on the Licensed Battlefield Guide exam here. First of all, we're not bitching. This isn't a bitch session.
No.
Okay?
No.
We are all kind of laughing about it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because we know how to laugh at our pain.
Because
there is that,
we're laughing
yes.
because we're not crying.
Because comedy is tragedy.
Comedy is tragedy. That's right.
If we don't
Exactly.
laugh, we will cry, and nobody
Precisely.
needs to see that.
That's it.
Yep.
But seriously, it was an interesting thing. So what I thought we'll do is, first of all, we have nationally syndicated Wall Street Journal stars from left to right. Debbie Jones in the center is Jamiee Umstaddt, and on the right is, of course, our buddy 6 Questions, Michael Lentz. And we all took the exam on Saturday, December 7th, a date which now will live in infamy yet again.
For so many reasons.
Or still. Right? And but it wasn't so bad. It wasn't horrible. Cindy, could you do me a favor in the back there and hit record on the thingamabob there? I forgot to hit record. Thank you. And you're your own producer. You forget things along the way. But anyway, so let's start off with the beginning with this here, guys. We'll go around. We'll start from Debbie and work our way around.
In
Okay.
the beginning.
All right. So Debbie, was this a lifelong? When you discovered there was such a thing as a licensed battlefield guide here in Gettysburg, was this a lifelong dream? Did you suddenly want to become one, or tell me about your journey to wanting to take the test?
I did not discover licensed battlefield guides were a thing until the 150th anniversary.
Okay.
I had come, at the time I was a Civil War reenactor, I had come with some friends to experience an anniversary event.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of my friends and I decided to stay because that year there was a reenactment on the weekend before, there was a reenactment on the weekend after, so the battle anniversary was in between. So we decided to stay for the whole week.
Okay.
When we were in the visitor center, purchasing tickets to go into the museum, none of us had been in the relatively new museum.
Mm-hmm.
We noticed on the board that it said you could take a guide in your car, and we went, that's a thing. We would really love that. But unfortunately, of course, being the 150th, there weren't any available. But that was the first time I had heard of it. So that's 11 years ago now?
Yeah.
11 years.
11 years, yeah.
And I didn't come back here for another 5 years, but it was always kind of in the back of my head. But once I came back about 6 years ago, and after that, it was like I was here at least once a year. And the longer I thought about it, the more I learned what it would take to be a ranger here. The more I was like, okay, what it takes to be a ranger and to get a shot at being somewhere like this.
Yeah. Such a slim chance.
Right. And I was already in my mid-30s at that point. I'm 42 now. So I was like, I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to have to upend my life every 6 months to get a new job at a new park where I never may even get a shot at getting in here.
Right.
And this was really the only place I wanted to be. So then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I wonder about that license guide thing. And, started taking tours with guides and talking to guides.
Yeah, but at the time, though, you're still living in Michigan.
Yep. I was
So you would come and visit.
Mm-hmm.
And then what made you decide to move here?
When I really thought I could do this.
Okay.
That doing what a guide does was something I would enjoy. along the way, I had multiple people. For the longest time, I heard people go, you should be a teacher. You'd be really good at it. And I was like, I hate the thought of standing in front of a classroom.
Yeah, with other people's bratty kids.
I've had to do it before, not by my own choice. I was voluntold that I had to do it, and I hated
be a
it.
teacher? Mm-hmm. How's that possible? How'd that happen?
Well, right after college, I had a job as a secretary at a local grade school. And it was a small Lutheran grade school.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't have enough reading teachers for one of the grades. And they were like, you have a college degree. I went, but it's not in teaching. They go, it's a college degree. It counts.
Right.
And there were moments that I enjoyed, but the overall experience I hated. And I was like, I am not a classroom person. I enjoyed the teaching part of it in the, I love sharing the story of Gettysburg, but I do not like the whole planning a curriculum and standing in front of a classroom and disciplining kids and like all of that.
I could totally respect that because I'm the same way. Like that's why I don't prepare the show. Like I just swing it. Yeah.
I much enjoy the one-on-one or a small group of people. So as I got familiar with what the guides do, I thought I would have a blast with that. Despite the fact that, despite appearances, I'm really an introvert at heart. But when you have an introvert who's passionate about something, they don't seem like an introvert.
That's when they come alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is my passion.
Yeah.
The idea of being able to share this story with people from literally all across the world.
The world, yes.
Would be so cool. So yeah, almost 2 years ago now, I started to get the idea in my head that I knew almost immediately, if I'm going to try for this, I need to actually move to Gettysburg. Because I knew living in Michigan, 8 hours away, there's no way you can study for this.
No. And that's expensive.
Properly. Yeah.
To come and visit all the time. Right.
Exactly. Without being on the field.
Right.
It didn't take much to recognize that certain things aren't going to make sense unless you're on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So a couple of years ago, I started telling people that I was seriously considering moving to Gettysburg. And then a series of things happened that sort of forced the issue. And things like I lost my job. I was going to be forced to move out of the home I was living in. So I was like, well, if this isn't a sign from God, I don't know what is. So, and I ended up being able to move here. And it was a lot of dominoes that fell into place that were just like, okay, I guess this is what I meant to do. And so it'll be 2 years in February that I moved here.
2 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, and I don't mean this as I don't mean this in a negative way, but it seems longer that you've been here longer.
Yeah.
Like it seems like
sometimes it feels longer.
It seems like you never weren't here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, good.
Yeah,
I guess I've really made myself at home then.
But you've been volunteering for the park, so you're doing things that kind of are in line with what a guide does.
Yeah.
And okay, so that's the beginning there. So Well, now, Jamiee, how about you? Because you also are not from this area. None of us in this room are from this area.
No.
Even in the back room. Nobody in this building right now is from this area.
Nope.
So, Jamiee, what's your story? Bend that mic right up to your mouth. Don't worry, I sterilized it. It bends. The arm bends.
Are you sure?
Yeah, there you go. All right, go ahead.
All right. So, sheesh. My story begins back in the 80s. Mythical times.
Yes.
The before time.
Before times. When little Jamiee was a crazy forest kid who loved playing in the woods and making survival tracks and running through crazy things. And
Tomboy type.
Anyway.
Right?
And I had this great notion that I wanted to be a forest ranger. And I was going to do that. And one of my uncles was. So I was like, I want to be just like you. That's like loud.
Yeah.
So
it's okay.
With emphasis.
So as I grew up,
James, sorry to interrupt you. You got to Mike. Can you do that for her?
Yeah, let's see.
Bend the arm.
Your hair is kind of a little bit.
Yeah, get your hair out of the way.
Yeah.
You people with your hair.
Why do you think mine is up?
So What you want to do?
There you
is
go.
want
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
Almost eat it.
I'm
Like
Don't
like-
worry. It's just
There you go.
live.
I'm eating
There.
it.
Now you're so
There you
clear. Perfect.
Oh,
All right.
okay, excellent.
Proceed.
So now I literally am eating it. Okay, is that still all right?
That's good. Yeah.
All right. So as I grew up, I kind of started to see the Park Service when I discovered interpretation, and I went, "Oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever!" And of course, I'm watching Scott Hartwig on PCN as a kid, and I'm watching them all the time. Like every time we had the anniversary, I'd be sitting in my living room watching that.
Because you're from Pennsylvania, just not
Yes,
here, right?
Yeah,
Right,
I'm
right.
originally from the Lehigh Valley, so a tiny little town up there called Bangor.
That's
Closest
in
to-
Maine.
No, it is not.
Oh, okay.
Not that one.
That's
That one. No.
Bangor.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so no, Bangor, PA. But closest thing is to Route 80 there at the Delaware Water Gap. But so plenty of woods in the background, but not enough history for me. We would come by through here, and there was just, you can feel this place when you get close to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's really weird. And as a kid, that affected me a lot.
That's so true, though. Let's hang on that for a second.
Yes.
Because you can feel this place as you get closer, right? And you don't even need to see any signs like billboards or anything like that. There's just an energy here.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because I always say that, like, when I moved away from here and I'd come back to visit my friends and I'd stay for a weekend and then I'd leave, there was my happiness and joy well was depleting, was draining with every mile away from Gettysburg I got on Route 15. And then, but the reverse happened as I get closer, it builds up, it fills up. And to this day, now I've lived here a total with an 8-year gap in between. I've lived here 10 years and going on 11. And to this day, that has not worn off. And I realize I have about a 10-mile radius before my happiness depletes. And it's the weirdest thing. There's just something about this area. And I always wonder if there hadn't been a battle that we fell in love with the story of, if we would all feel the same way.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is very perplexing.
Yeah.
It is.
Because even the Confederates, when they came up here, there was no battle yet. And they're like, this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It just is. It's majestic. There's something about this. All right, but go ahead.
Well, no, seriously, and I'm about as psychic as your door over there. So I have no idea what the heck drew me here other than strictly the history. So as I grew up and ended up kind of veering off into an entirely different career path, the National Park Service Ranger program kind of crumbled away into only having one person here that's for interpretation. And being a realist, I was kind of like, well, I guess that's pretty slim. I mean, back in 2000, I got about so close to becoming a lawnmower person here for the Park Service, and I was like, oh, I almost got in.
So you'll do any job. It doesn't matter.
I was willing to do
Right.
any job to be here, and but that was 2000, and unfortunately, that didn't happen. So, flash forward to 2021. We were kind of in a situation where, with COVID, Helena, my youngest daughter, she'd been pretty much kicked out of school in kindergarten for, COVID. They're like, nope, you're out. And first grade was all at home schooling. Second grade was going to be. And we were like, you know what? She has one really incredibly close friend here. This is our chance to make a run for it.
Right.
And
Let's
so-
rip her away from that one friend. Let's start anew.
She
Still
still
get
talks
over
to
it.
her on a daily basis. It's okay.
Oh, that's cute. Okay.
But moving here was really the 100% deal breaker. I mean, it was as soon as we did that, I could actually get my feet on the ground. And no matter how many times I'd read Stephen Sears, you don't get it until you're here. And so
Exactly.
literally when we moved here, I cleaned the heck out of the house we moved into, made it livable, and immediately got out on that battlefield as fast as I could.
Nice.
And from that day on, I mean, I was studying as hard as I possibly could just because I greedily wanted to know everything.
Yeah. That was what, 2019? No,
It
2020.
was 2021.
Oh, 21.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I see. I thought you were here a longer time than that. Okay, but
No. Yeah.
so you move here to study, and you begin studying right away.
Yeah.
Because at the time, none of us know. when they're going to give the test again.
Nope.
Right. No.
Because we're still thinking it should have been 2019 because it was 2 years, but they didn't give it. And there's no rule that ever said it's every 2 years. It worked
It
out
had
that
been
way for a
falling
while.
into that
Yeah.
pattern.
And so everybody just assumed that's what it was. But it wasn't.
Yep.
And so, okay, so then it's another year, and then COVID hits, and it's definitely not happening then.
Nope.
And
Nope.
then another year, and then another year, and everybody's like,
Yeah.
so, and we haven't gotten to Mike's story yet, but I'll ask all three of you this question now. Moving here and studying right away, or studying since 2017, or whatever the case may be for whoever is doing whatever they're doing.
Right.
Looking back after taking the exam, do you find or do you think that might have in some way been too much? Like, or not enough?
Yeah.
Time and like the amount of time
okay.
and
okay,
you know
yeah.
and the amount of studying that you're doing in
right,
that time.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say for sure, I think looking at this, I don't think it's enough. It's not enough. There's just too much to cover with that test that you could spend decades here and it wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, people have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, no, I don't think it was too long. Was it nerve-wracking? Yeah, because was it frustrating? Because you wanted to get going, you wanted to see what it was. I certainly did.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what I was getting myself into here,
Yeah.
why I moved out here. And every single year, it just seems like it got punted off to the next year or the next year, waiting to see when May rolled around, are they going to call that test? And then year after year, they didn't for various reasons.
Yeah.
And so what that did is it was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's frustrating because you want to get it over with. On the other hand, it gives you more time to be out on the field. It gives you more time to study. It gives you more time to go out to lectures, except in the COVID times. And of course, that's also a part of it too. Being out here in the COVID times as I was, you had a 6,000 acre battlefield that you could socially distance on with no difficulty
That's true.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So there I am with my Leno Atlas book in the middle of the pandemic, just walking the field. And that was huge. And so the battlefield's the best teacher. And I wouldn't trade that amount of time that I was here for anything. I think I think it helped a great deal, but it was not nearly enough.
No, and depending on what you have going on, I moved here and immediately got a full-time job, and I have a family. So trying not to isolate my poor husband, who agreed to move here with me. And so, I'd be probably the opposite of the bee's knees right there. I'm sorry, honey, but now the battlefield's my husband.
Yeah.
It's the other man.
I'm sure that would have gone over
Right.
well.
So no other man syndrome here. I needed to be 100%.
So then I'm going to ask a stupid question. I'm going to assume, I'm not going to ask a question. I'm going to just make a statement that is sort of asking. I'm assuming that neither of you have ADD or anything like that, right?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Okay, so I haven't been diagnosed, but I'm pretty certain I do have it. Oh, okay. So you might not actually have it then.
Oh, no. I definitely do.
Yeah. Were you kicked in the head by a mule or something? Okay. So what I've noticed is, I started the show to study. And the more I know, the less I remember.
Yeah.
The more I hear, the less I remember. And that's why I was asking, because for me, it doesn't work that way, where the more time I have, the more it suddenly becomes I can't see the forest for the trees. And my brain feels not wrinkly, but very smooth. And people tell me, even non-related to the battle, people tell me something and it just is in one ear out the other.
Right.
And so that's why I'm starting to think, either I don't remember being kicked in the head by a mule, or I have some kind of ADD or whatever, something. I don't know. Maybe I just got a lot on my
I'm
mind.
pretty sure you do.
Yeah, you witness it every week when you come in for the show, so you're right. Okay, but so Mike, then your question: the journey to the guide exam. How does it start?
Okay. If you want to know more, go and reference the Spotlight On episode of 6 Question Lens by subscribing to Patreon, Addressing Gettysburg.
You know what? I might put that out for the Christmas season.
Nice plug. Good job.
Well done, sir.
But not to tread that old ground, I come from Colorado.
Yeah.
And in 2018, I decided just off a whim just to go and do a Civil War battlefield tour trip. And so I did. I came out here and I saw, at Gettysburg, I saw what the guides were doing there, and I went, oh, that's a thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. I have a degree in history. I can make a run at this. So I go home. I tell my roommate, I say, hey, this is a really cool thing.
I'm the happiest girl in the whole USA.
It definitely
You
got
sang that to him?
To understand that context.
to understand that context.
Watch Spotlight on.
On 6 questions it's on Patreon. Okay. I think when looking at it, just like Debbie said, all the dominoes fell into place for me. My roommate got married and was looking to get into his own situation. The lease was coming due, and I went, why not? Pack everything up. I was working for Chick-fil-A out there in Colorado.
Right.
There was a Chick-fil-A in Chambersburg, so I just contacted them. They hired me off of a phone interview, and I just packed everything into my car and just came out here.
And that was 2019.
That was 2019.
And so you come out here, and I met you not long after you moved, I guess, right?
Right. It was maybe that winter lecture series when we first met.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
When you were recording
Yes.
the winter lectures.
And then
I was up front. I was always up front on that front aisle.
You were in the nerd row with me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, and then you, I believe that's also like probably early 2020 is when you earned the name 6 Questions Lens.
It was, yeah.
Because you would send in questions. And it was very evident at that point that you already knew the answer to the questions that you send in. But it was also very evident that you not only know what you're talking about, but you know what you're talking about enough to help other people learn what they should learn. Which and this is, obviously we don't know if you get the license or not yet, but that showed me that I'm like, all right, this guy knows his stuff. Like he knows what people need to know, right? And he's asking better questions than the host. And I hate him.
So you keep him around?
No. No, you know what it is? It's like you were asking questions like a teacher would ask another teacher when they're maybe doing a joint presentation, and you're like, well, he's missing a part. It's like, well, Mr. Straub, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Oh yes, thank you, Mr. Lentz. And then he answers the question. So I thought that was really good. So obviously prior to moving here, you were studying this stuff.
I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a passion for the subject matter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's different when you get here because it hits you when you get here. And you're looking around and you're seeing 1,300 monuments, markers, and statues that you have to somehow become familiar with.
Yeah.
And you're going, this is a big elephant to eat, and I don't know how to start.
Yeah.
And it's immense.
It is?
I'm talking about just the monuments. The story itself is so big and so rich and so layered that the more I studied, the more I know, the less I understand. Because the next source...
Thank you, Don Henley.
Well, we're going to keep rolling on the artists here as we go along. But the reality was, the more I came to understand the story, the less I became to understand the story.
Yeah.
And that quest of trying to know more is always something that fuels me and drives me. And my passion for this place fuels what I want to do and share that passion and this place with other people.
Yeah, I think that's like the common thread is we love it and we think it should be loved by all. So we find our own way to try to ignite that spark in total strangers, right?
Right.
And being a guide, if you can get there, is a great way to do that. Working for the Park Service, like you said, is a great way to do it if you can get the job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a very hard, everybody wants to get to Gettysburg. It's very hard to do. So a guide might be a shortcut, but we have friends who are guides who got the license on the 3rd try.
Right.
And so
Or later in some
Or later.
Yeah.
At
Like
least
Rupert,
one guy took
5 times.
6 times.
5 times, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. Okay. All right, good. And so what's the next question? Okay, so now while everybody's preparing for this, There's what I call the dark ages. We kind of alluded to them before. Those were the years where the park was kicking the can down the road. Next year. Okay, now we don't know when we're going to do it. We got, and then now, so like for you, you working at Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
Was that frustrating for you at all? I've always been meaning to ask you this. Like, you come here to be a guide, right? Now,
Right.
I know people who there's guides who say, if you think you're doing this, you're gonna make a lot of money. Find another, right? So, but it's good supplemental income,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, would you have kept the job? I mean, you don't work there now anymore, anyway. But like, if you were still there and you were still going, would you have kept the job, or would you have tried to be just go balls to the wall right away and try to be a full-time guide if you could?
I think I would have looked for something else that was more stable and have this as a supplemental side of, the guide side as a supplemental income. Because, again, to do this full time, you have to take every single bus, you have to take every single car you can, and maybe you might make a little bit more than a teacher does, right? And so it's a good supplemental thing. For me, it wasn't about earning money with this position. It was about sharing that story that mattered.
Yeah.
So it required getting a job that was more stable, that could be a long-term career type of job. And if you're working Chick-fil-A, as much as I love the taste profile at Chick-fil-A, they're
Very protective.
very protective there of a taste profile.
Yeah.
As much as I love Chick-fil-A, unless you're going to become an owner
Chick-fil-A
operator,
corporate is very protective of their taste profile.
exactly. So unless you're wanting to become an owner operator, that's not a place to stay long term.
So it's not like you can't climb a ladder and become a regional manager or anything, or
You can try. There are different avenues. You can go and work for corporate.
Work corporate, yeah.
You can do all that. But the more I thought about it, the more I went, no, this is a great thing to do. And don't get me wrong, it was the best place for me to be at the time. Because
it really was. They took good care of you there. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. I love the owner operator there to this day. I love my teammates that I worked with. It was where I needed to be during the pandemic because, having grown up during 9/11, I was looking at a bunch of teenagers who hadn't been through a crisis before, and their world shut down. So I got to bring that trauma of living through 9/11, and I got to at least be a shoulder they could cry on.
You mean the kids at work?
The kids at
Yeah,
work.
okay.
And the teenagers who are working there at Chick-fil-A, I could be there for them and say, hey, it gets better.
Yeah,
It gets better.
right.
Just keep doing your job, keep smiling, and if you need to go back to the cooler and cry, go back to the cooler and cry. Take care of yourself. So being that rock during that crisis, being that experienced voice was where I needed to be.
Okay,
So yeah,
that's interesting.
Plus,
How
they
about-
have probably pretty good benefits.
for fast food, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Fair
pretty
enough.
good.
Yeah.
One thing you need if you're going to be a guide, because certainly you're not getting them from there. I mean, and
No.
so you
Yeah.
need to actually have that stable job
Exactly.
in order to have that decent benefit package so that you can go out in the battlefield and do this stuff for an
Exactly.
I
fall off of,
reassured my
Devil's
boss.
Den.
Yeah, I
Yes.
reassured my boss yesterday. I was like, by the way, I don't think I said this, but even if I get the license, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
she goes,
I-
oh, good. I was wondering about that. I was like, no, it's, we don't get.
Yeah, but I mean, there
benefits
are
and
guides
stuff, so-
who are full time, but they weren't right away.
No.
You got to kind of. It's like having your own business, really. Like you got to kind of promote yourself, but the rules about promoting yourself are kind of tricky. So, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being an Eric Lindblade is not.
correct. But
viable for most.
But he busted his ass to get like that.
He did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I
You see
remember-
him out there all
All
the
the
time.
time. Yeah.
I think he sleeps out there, to be honest with you. I never
Got a
see him
tent
anywhere
behind
else.
the visitor center we don't know about.
Honestly, like during the season, if I go out there, if I happen to be on the battlefield for whatever reason, like 2 or 3 times a day, I will see him on some type of tour, car tour, carriage ride, something.
Yeah.
He is everywhere, but he is an anomaly. Like he's,
Yeah.
That is
he-
not the norm.
That's
No.
not the norm.
So
And I'm sure he would be happy to tell you how difficult it is.
yeah. So okay, so the Dark Ages are you getting kind of frustrated during that time or what?
Yeah. I mean, how could you not be?
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it demoralizing at all?
to a certain degree because
Okay.
it comes down to this. But also, if you actually read what was written about the last exam, it could be several years before the next exam. And so you had to take that on its face. Even as frustrating as that was, it could be 7 years, as it was, before the next test is called. You just have to be prepared to go when they call it. And that's a tough thing to do because you're putting yourself in a constant state of readiness. Of can I go at this moment and feel like I'd be confident enough to do this?
Yeah.
And that's the nerve-wracking, that's a stressful part of it.
Yeah, constantly keeping fresh and learning new things and trying not to overwrite those things in your brain. 'Cause I mean, I know there were parts of this exam where I sat there and went, I knew this 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
I knew that.
Exactly.
Well, like in the show we just did with Jason, there were a bunch of people that came up to me before the test, and they introduced themselves. They said, "Thank you for doing all those shows about the guide exam, and your show, I listened to your show to help me with all this stuff." And there were points in the test where I'd get a question, and I'd be like, "Oh, we did a show about this year." And I couldn't remember the answer to save my life. And then I started to laugh because I realized these people that were thanking me might actually like do really well based off the show I did, and I don't remember anything from the damn show. And so so I started laughing, and I said, "All right, you know what? Have fun with this and answer what you can, and don't worry about it because this ain't happening." And that's fine because I went into it with the attitude. I didn't have dreams of doing it. I always had a great respect for the guides because of my experience with Gettysburg. I hired them, and I would go out on tours with them, and so like I saw how varied it could be, right? And the ones that I became kind of buddies with, and I would talk to, like Bob Steenstra was like he's a great friend of mine. We've known each other 20 years now, and you know he is a teacher an educator, I should say, through and through, right? From head to toe, that man is an educator. He doesn't have to get paid for it. That's just what he is. Right. And so he would impart his wisdom from his experience on me when we're talking about all this stuff, and he's always encouraging, you should do this. And I was like, nah, you know, and I was too young and I didn't have the right mindset. But even when I came back here, I said, well, you know what? I might as well try, right? And I know what I'll do. I'll do a podcast, and that's how I'll learn, because the thought of cracking open books and taking notes again, when I already did that, right? It was like, I can't do it again. I just can't. It's the most boring way to learn. I learn from talking and listening. So, so that was the idea. I did not expect, and the narratives, the whole idea of that was, that would be the way that I would have fun with reading and taking notes. I'll make a story out of it, and I'll make the sound effects and all that. Yeah. For me. And then I didn't realize, and I put it out there. I figured, well, a couple of nerds might find it, and you know. So I didn't expect. I had a plan in case it did, but I did not expect it to be my living. I'm glad it is, but I did not expect it to be. And so when it did become my living, then it became less about learning and more about keeping the balls in the air. And so now I'm like, I just need to worry about producing a show. I need to worry about where am I going to do the show? I need to worry, all these other things. I need to worry about an accountant because I can't do my taxes this way. This isn't, it's not the same as TurboTax. So like,
no.
So like, it becomes a business, and it becomes something completely different, and it's harder to do. So when they made the announcement, and this is my segue into the next question, when they made the announcement, I said, I'm going to sign up for it. I'm going to take it. But I know right now I don't have time to study. Your study group that you guys formed, I'm part of your chat because I was going to try to do it, but I never had time to do it. And I had another one with our friend Matt McClanahan, Rue McClanahan's grandson, and Michael George from down in Georgia, little Gideon's dad. By the way, little Gideon's like 13 years old now. He talks like this.
That's just not right.
I know.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for that.
Maybe he's 11. I don't know. But he's like, he's tall. He's like, hey, how you doing?
Yep.
So anyway,
they grow up so fast.
That's what I was going to say. They grow up so fast. He's this little, with this little pipsqueak voice. How long did Pickett's charge last? And then it's now like, hey, how you doing? I play violin. So, but anyway, Michael, Matt, and I had tried to do Zooms on Monday night, and that lasted maybe 3 weeks, and then we moved, and I haven't had time to do it since, or energy. And I haven't had the time or energy to do yours. And I was like, you know what, Matt? If you haven't learned anything through osmosis after 30 years, what are you doing, right? And so now the question is, what am I doing? So I applied for a job at a bank, and I'm quitting this tomorrow. No, but really, so I didn't study. I said, let's do it cold, because I know I'm going to focus on what I'm interested in, and this much of the test is going to have to do with that. So, and they're not telling you what you need to do. They're just saying, yeah, just learn everything.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Yeah. So I'll just learn everything.
Know it all.
Okay. Well, I don't have the time.
I don't even know what everything is.
Where does everything start? Like creation? Like, where are we going? So
Rocks.
So I said, I'm just going to say, maybe I picked up enough stuff. And if I'm in the right Zen mindset, when I go in there, I read a question, I close my eyes, I go, Zen mindset, where's it? And boop, the answer comes out. That's not what happened, but I thought maybe it would. So I want to know, when they gave the date, when they announced the date, what changed in your studying everything, studying habits and all that stuff, Debbie, not Deborah.
Yeah,
Deborah?
There you go.
I wish your name was
there.
Deborah, because I like to once in a while use the full proper name.
Yeah,
Debbie.
not mine. If you want to go there, go with Debbie Lee, because that's
okay, all right, Debbie Lee.
There you go. It was pretty much because we were here. We were doing an AG today when they announced it.
Yeah.
And I happened to see it pop up in Facebook, and I was like, hold the presses. Like, fresh information. But it was immediately like, okay, game on. Because now I have a date.
Yeah.
I have a time frame to work in. And while we didn't necessarily know what everything entailed, we knew things like there is a suggested reading list on the Park Service website. And I noticed, because I had looked it up previously, they did update it. So there were some newer books on there, and others had dropped off. That was about the extent of what they told us. Was just read, here's the suggested reading list.
And what, I know you can't remember them all, and I can't remember them all either, but give me like the range of, because it wasn't all battle.
No.
Oh, no.
They broke it down into categories, much like the exam ended up being. And I actually went through the suggested reading list today because my sister requested it. She was like, I want to know what books on that list you don't have that I can get for you as Christmas and birthday presents. And I went, okay.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to complain. So it started with things like contextual stuff. And it would be, McPherson's Battle Cry of Freedom.
Yeah.
But it would also have, one of the categories is the campaign and the battle. So it included books like Coddington's Gettysburg Study in Command. It included Trudeau's A Testing of Courage.
I love that.
Then there was a whole big section that was micro-histories. So it was stuff like Kirkwood's
Too much for human endurance.
Too much for human endurance.
Too much for human endurance.
The Fonz trilogy.
Yeah, the Fonz trilogy was in there.
Arthur Fonzarelli.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Hey!
One section was they called it spatial recognition. So it was Gottfried's map book and Carol Reardon's
guidebook.
Reardon and Vossler's field guide. They even put a section of other media
addressing Gettysburg.
No. That would have been awesome.
Maybe more people would have passed.
Maybe.
Not me, but
maybe
everybody
it'll be
else.
on the next suggested list.
There you go.
Highly doubtful.
But it was stuff like watching Gettysburg. Lincoln was on there.
Well, okay, Lincoln, that makes sense because there were more questions that were covered in Lincoln than there was in the movie Gettysburg.
Killer Angels is on the list.
Yeah, same thing.
But Scott Hartwig's companion to the Killer
which is
Angels.
a great booklet.
Glory was one of the movies
Right.
they suggested you watch. So it's a pretty broad, and there was one that was all like tactical type stuff. So it was Silent Sentinels was one of the books
Right.
on there.
So technical stuff or
Yeah.
things like hospitals, like Greg Coco's book, books
yes,
about
both of-
hospitals and
Vast Sea of Misery.
and Strange of Light and and
Everything
yeah.
it's on your dream library.
Yeah.
Pretty
Your
much.
bookshelf
Yeah.
at home is
Pretty
on
much.
that.
Every book I have
Is
not cracked open.
that's right.
And even primary
Yep.
sources like the official records of the War of
Yes.
Rebellion
Yes.
or the Batchelder
The Batchelder-
Papers.
I don't think they actually
That-
put the
not- they don't-
Batchelder
aren't
papers
there,
on
but that
there.
helps. But
But the
helps.
war, the volumes from the War of the Rebellion
Yep.
are in there. There was something else that was more of an official. Oh, Battles and Leaders.
Battles and Leaders.
Oh,
yep,
yeah,
yep,
Gettysburg
that was
volume
there.
on
Yep.
Battles and Leaders is on the suggested reading list.
I
So.
think
So-
what we've discovered is that really what you needed to do to pass this exam was actually have read all of those.
And
Yeah.
and so
and taken copious notes
Yeah.
the whole way
Yeah.
through.
I mean, it's like a college course, really. But
really
you
is.
have to teach yourself the college course.
and
Yes.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
really
AP history.
multiple
Yeah.
courses in one.
Yeah, of course. No, it's
Yeah.
a series of courses on the Civil War.
Classes that make up a whole course.
Yeah.
and building up on what Debbie's saying is basically when the test is called, before even the test is called, you have to build a foundation of knowledge
Yes.
from that reading list.
Yeah.
If that test is called 6 months out to when it's going to be held, and you still have to go through the 70 books that are on that reading list, I'm sorry
If you
to
haven't
break
read
dude.
something like Battle Cry of Freedom at that point, or A Testing of Courage, like
Or
give
Coddington,
out because
you're done.
screwed.
You're done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Battle Cry of Freedom on Audible, I think, was like 47 hours.
yeah, it's
Oh, they're long. I
It's
know.
dense.
But that's still like only like a
Scratching
30-second
the
the time that it would take me to read it. So I mean,
true.
you know,
So,
Yeah.
so I think it was one of the earlier episodes that you had Jesse Weedleton on about
Very
being,
early,
being
yeah.
a guide or
Yeah.
a guide exam.
Yeah.
When she said you build that foundation of knowledge, and then when the test is called, you cram. I had that ever since that episode. I had that as my game plan of, all right, I'm building a foundation of knowledge. When that test is called, now it's just, all right, let's just start shoving whatever we can in there that's not there.
Yeah.
But if the foundation you built isn't good, you're not going to go anywhere. The house is going to crumble underneath you.
sure.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's what that reading list is there for, is to build that foundation of knowledge.
Well, and I have to go back and give a shout out to the AG Book Club, Dressing Gettysburg,
Oh,
and
yes,
Stephen Byers,
absolutely.
because honest to God, I was there on day one when that started because it was Stephen Sears Gettysburg, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, let's on.
yeah, that one's on the list.
It
And
helps. It helps to read a whole book when you're with a group.
Yeah,
It does.
and I mean, we really discussed things like that entire time. It was only, and honestly, it was kind of heartbreaking and tough to do. But when they called this and they said it was going to be this year, I looked at our reading list for the year and went, "Oh God, I can't do it this year. None of these books are
Basically.
Gettysburg, and I'm going to
Same.
get so
Same. I couldn't
So-
do it either.
So then,
So I'm
okay,
coming
so
back
then-
in January,
oh, good,
Steve.
Good. I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear
we're,
that.
We're
'cause
coming
he-
back for Ron White's book. Yes, we're coming back for that.
He called me crying a couple days ago, and he's like, "I don't know where the main people have been." And I said, "I don't know anything about this." He goes, "They hate me," and I go, "No."
Oh, poor Steve.
No, but
we love you, Steve.
and that is a great plug, by the way, for the book club. For those of you out there who are interested in this stuff, hey, winter's coming on, and what are you going to do but sit around and read or something, right?
Oh,
You're going to
yeah.
watch our YouTube videos and you're going to read, and so you might as well join the Addressing Gettysburg Book Club. The email for that is, I believe, Addressing Gettysburg Book Club @gmail.com. Steve Byers is the guy you're going to contact and join
Absolutely.
him. It's been going 2 years, 3 years.
3 years.
I think it's
Yeah.
3, yeah,
3
because it
years.
was already
Yeah.
going when I
That's
moved.
amazing.
Yeah, it started in September, October of that 2021.
Yeah. And then also we have the film club too, AG Film Club 1863 @gmail.com, which if you're into film as well, obviously if they're telling you for the guide exam, watch some movies, it helps to watch some movies. So
And Casey was in my classroom for the exam.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I was looking over in the corner. I'm like,
Yeah, it's interesting because I said, well, I'll say that when we get to the exam. So
Yeah.
okay, so go ahead. Now, when the announcement is made for you, did you finish?
Yeah.
Okay,
I did.
and
So-
Jamiee,
Moving
you,
on.
yeah, what?
So when the announcement's made,
Yes,
basically through your show, we have access to each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we basically looked at each other and said, hey,
If we ever get in the Wall
Yeah.
Street Journal, we got to make sure we tell them that Matt is the reason we're friends.
and we've got to look like a
And
90s.
we did.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just
We
busting
did.
balls.
Put it in
I'm
there.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We did
oh,
that.
Don't make me sing.
We did that and also make sure that we look like a 90s rock band.
Yes,
Yeah.
that worked.
Exactly.
The hats, your
Yeah.
haircut. I like that.
Yeah.
Which my
That was
sister was
great.
the one who knitted the hat for me
Oh, yeah?
like years ago.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I was talking to her last night. She goes, "My hat is in the Wall Street Journal." I'm like, yes, it is.
Internationally known, by the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now it is.
Now it is, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's internationally known.
And so is my friend Francesca's scarf because she made that
See,
too.
there you
so-
go.
Oh, well, there you go.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. So we looked at each other and so
Gotta have fun with it. Come on.
Yeah, of course.
so we looked at each other and then we started going, hey, let's start meeting together. Let's start
Yeah.
getting together to study.
It was one of those we had already the two of us had already kind of talked about it, and then when Eric did his open house, Jamiee and I happened
Dorr.
to be
Yeah.
happened to be in line next to each other, and we started talking. She was like, "I want a study group." I was like, "Well, Mike and I were talking about it," and so that's how we ended up the three of us
Okay.
together.
I mean,
Okay.
it's like when you're in high school in physics and you need people with you who can actually do the project, like, and get you an A. I figured if I hung out with these two, it was like great.
Ooh, that's dubious.
Well,
Wow, that's I'm starting to question this right now because wow, these two know what they're doing. Meanwhile, we're like, yeah, like three blind mice. Like we know where we're going. This is fine.
my boss informed me that over the weekend he saw a little plush dumpster fire, and he almost bought it for me, and I was like, about sums up the last year.
oh, like a
Yeah.
stuffed animal, but it was a
Yes,
dumpster
with
fire.
dumpster
Oh, that's great. I would love that.
Man.
I'd put
Someone
that
else
right
gave me an
here.
emotional support pickle, so you know.
Oh, yay.
Well, all right. So then let's get to the exam now. The audience is dying to know. Okay.
They're probably like, okay, shut up about the other stuff.
Yeah,
Talk
right.
about the
Stop
exam.
with this. Just get to the story of the exam. So now, like I said, we're not bitching about it, right? We don't know how we did, but as far as I'm concerned, I had fun. Debbie, I'll start with you again. Okay. The morning of the exam, you wake up at what time?
My alarm went off at I think 6 a.m.
And you get up, and where do you go first?
Well,
No.
usual.
I mean, when you leave the house, you're up and you're out.
So I left the house because I was like, how deep are we going on this?
Play by play of Debbie's routine.
I don't think the world needs to know.
How long is your morning constitutional?
La, 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 la.
Nobody needs to
No, I mean when you get up, you're up and out. I don't need to know. I'm saying move forward to when you leave the
Right.
house. Where do you go
So,
first?
Because I live only a couple of minutes from Hack, which is where we had the test.
True.
I did not leave home until about 5 minutes to 8.
Okay. We had to be there at 8:15, no later than 8:15.
No later than 8:15.
Yep.
So I was like, and it was hard not to leave the house sooner because I was keyed up at that point.
The meth
Yeah, something like that.
kept you up all night.
I did not sleep well, all that well.
Oh,
the
I
night
slept
before.
I slept like the dead,
I
Sorry.
actually slept
like a newborn babe.
even worse than the Saturday night. Like I barely slept Saturday night into Sunday morning. It was
Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay. So you're nervous, obviously.
I was nervous. I had posted something on Facebook about, today's the day. This is it.
Today is
And
the first day of the rest of my life.
something like that. I was like, every stress that I have gone through, every dream I have had to this point, all of this studying comes down to this moment.
Now, at this point, are you stressed or is there a sense of relief?
I was stressed.
Okay. Still stressed.
I was oddly calm.
Were you able to eat breakfast?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew I needed to, or I was going to be dying and completely unfocused by the time
I didn't.
we got to lunch.
No breakfast, no coffee, not even coffee.
I definitely made sure I ate breakfast, but I was doing some last minute studying in those couple of hours ahead of time. And like I said, I posted on Facebook, and I had, even by the time we reached 8:00, I had dozens of messages. People texted me, they messaged me on Facebook, they commented on my post with, "You've got this, you're going to do great. You know so much."
Yeah. I think people like that, let me just say, should be in jail. Here's why. Because they don't know what you know, and they don't know what you need to know. They know that you are the one-eyed man in the land of the blind, and they're the blind.
Yep.
And so to them, you know everything. My family was doing the same thing to me. I'm like, no, I'm not going to. What are you talking about? Your whole life? I'm like, no, it's not anything
you have
like that.
No idea.
I could tell you what the movie got wrong,
Yeah.
but I ain't going to be able to tell you anything else. Go ahead.
I said I really appreciate the help. Like, I appreciate the good thoughts, but you guys really have no idea. And so as I'm walking out the door, there's a part of me, like, I was tearing up because part of me was just humbled by the number of people who were like, "You've got this." Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was also like, what if I do fail? And all these people have been like, "You've got this."
This is why
Yes.
I didn't put it on. I didn't talk about it.
I had
didn't
to
want
kind
that.
of refocus and let it go and
Yeah.
go, I know that for me, if I do fail, this is not the end of the world. Like I said in the article, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't move myself almost 400 miles from home to give up on the first
Well,
run.
and now that you said it in the article, people are going to hold you to it. The world
100%.
is going to hold you
and
to
I'm
it.
fine.
Oh, yeah.
Unless
Yeah.
something really drastic happens between now and the next test,
Sure.
I'm holding to that.
Right. Now, but you're saying, but hold on, you're speaking as if you failed.
Yes.
You think you did that badly?
Yeah.
Poorly, excuse me. You do. Why?
Because there were a lot of, so when it comes to the test itself, that first part, the fill in the blank. So there were
That was your
100
name you had to put in it.
No.
First part.
None of us put our names on the test, people. It's a numbered situation.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. That was your number.
Probably
So?
shouldn't mention your number just in case
Yeah.
you're still
Yeah.
tested.
Don't
No,
say
no, no, no.
number.
Now we know Matt failed because he put his name on it.
Every one of the proctors said, "Don't put your name on the test."
Multiple
And
times.
I was like, "The line isn't long enough for my name. Don't put your name, Matt." And I was like, "Oh, sorry."
Now we understand. Anyway.
That's how I failed.
So that first part, it was a whole booklet. I was very impressed. It was very
beautiful.
like professionally put
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah.
There were 180
61.
numbered.
Well,
No, that's a good. Somebody asked me that. I didn't know. Is it 161?
it was 180 questions.
But
180 questions.
the
Yeah,
trick here
but-
is that most of those questions
Yes.
had multiple blanks. Each blank
Was a
was
Was
a
a
point.
point. Yeah.
They did say, and we all got like a rule sheet that
Yeah, no paper.
explained.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
you
a
could-
rule sheet. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we did get scratch paper if we needed it.
Yeah,
though.
I thought you were talking about the.
No,
I'm sorry.
no, we all got a sheet of rules, and they did say things like, if the answer is a person's name, you need the first and last name unless we're specified. And there were a couple of them where they're like, you only need the last name for this. But they also said things like, it's possible you could get partial credit.
Yeah, possible.
So write
Yeah.
down what you
If we
know.
like you, you may get partial
Right.
credit.
And so there were some blanks where I was like, I know this regiment is from Pennsylvania, but I cannot for the life of me remember the number.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
wrote PA, hoping that I'd at least get half credit.
A quarter point.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was
Oh,
just like,
man.
George.
But there were also plenty of spots where I know I just left it blank because I was like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what
Right.
I screwed up on, and I bet it was a trick question, but I went the wrong way on the answer.
Yeah.
Is about I forgot the date that West Virginia became a state, but I knew it was in the lead up to the battle.
Oh,
And so, what was the date?
June 20th, 1863.
Yeah, that's what Google said later.
I know that.
So
feeling.
remember the question about Hooker resigning on the 27th because he couldn't take troops from blank blank.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, they want to know if I knew if it was West Virginia or Virginia at that point, and I'm like, oh shit, when did West Virginia become a state? And I'm like, well, okay. It's a trick question, so I'm gonna say Virginia, and I was wrong.
So
I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
do you want to
So
continue?
yes, I think I left too many blanks, especially when it came to artillery. We've all talked about this, that there was a lot of artillery questions on there. And as we have talked, because as I'm sure many of the audience are aware, I give Mike a ride to work in the morning, and in the afternoon I take him home. So we've had plenty of time in the last 2 days to talk over the test.
Right.
And we keep bringing up different questions, and he keeps going, "Oh, it was this," and I go, "Crap, I got that wrong."
now when it got to the regulations and legislation and all that stuff, did you just like I left a page and a half blank?
Yeah, that was about what I was like. This is just ridiculous.
Did you actually?
Oh no,
of course not. Oh, Mike
course
knows
not. He
everything.
knows everything.
Oh, I know
Well,
everything.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the directions does it say you get penalized if you get a wrong answer. You don't get it docked off. If I leave a blank, that's a non-answer. If I throw something in there and I, by just miracle, get that right, that's a point.
So are you saying this test starts at 0 and they add the points? They don't start at 100 and
I
subtract?
wouldn't be surprised.
Well, God damn it! If I knew that, Jesus. Okay, it's such a mystery.
I think the key to this is really just if whatever comes to your mind at that fleeting second, no matter what it is, just write that dang thing down.
Yeah.
Because it could be.
Well, with the Trent affair question, I had Trent, but I swear to God, all I kept thinking was Trent Lott. What was he, a congressman or senator?
Oh, God, yeah.
I was like, why the hell is this? The guy's been out of office for like 20 years. Why the hell is Trent Lott stuck in my head?
Because it's the word Trent.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got something similar. Like that picture of the Crawford statue, right? And it says, what's behind you? And I'm going, I know this. I know this.
Yeah.
I know what this is. And I'm like, Hair Ridge. No, it's not.
No.
Hair Ridge. No, it's not. Hair Ridge. No, it's not.
That began with an H.
Stop it.
There were several like that I was, because I don't know about the two of you, but I went all the way through it once.
Yeah.
And then I went back, and every time I skipped one of them or half a blank or whatever, I would star it so that it would be easier to spot when I came back through the second time.
Oh, see, I wrote it down
and
on my
the
note
third
paper.
time.
I wrote it down on my note paper, and I wrote my thoughts with it, like, never fucking heard of this, right? Or no, look, there was that
to use the scratch paper like that.
Well,
that's a good idea.
and then I would just go, okay,
Really
now I go
notes
back
for the guides later testing it.
So
That'd be pretty great.
So we're going away from our morning routine now. We're straight into the test.
Well, we jumped ahead.
Yeah,
We
we
jumped
did jump
ahead.
ahead a little bit.
But okay,
All
so
right.
let's first of all we have a super chat here, and so we're going to ask that because that's how we're going to start doing things. Grant says, was there a moment during the exam that made you four guys panic or crap bricks? Thank you, Grant.
But I actually hit a point where I actually felt shame for not remembering something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like
Yes.
that
But
should
only-
be easy.
But
Yeah.
I'm not going through and just what I did was, of course, they hand you the thing, you whip it out of the envelope, and you're like, okay. And I just went through it real fast, and then went back and started in earnest. And the Vivendier.
Oh, who
Freaking
was that?
A.
For
Who was
God's
that?
Mary.
sake, what is
Yeah.
the
I knew her
word?
Tappy.
It was Mary.
Tappy.
Oh my God.
It came
Oh
to
my
I
God.
woke up in the next
Oh my
day
God.
with
I
her
knew
name in
that.
my mind.
Oh
and I'm
my
going,
God.
of all the things that I
Oh
should
my
know,
I can't believe
it's the person I should know on the battlefield was, we're trying to bring more women to this place.
I know.
And it's a story, and it's a phenomenal story.
Right?
And I
Yes.
used to know this.
And I honestly,
And I'm sitting there going, as a Michigander, I should know this. that I couldn't come up with.
My thing was, I thought they made Vivandiers up or whatever, however you pronounce that, for reenactors just so their wives could come along. I didn't realize that was a real thing.
No,
There
but there
weren't a whole lot
few
of them,
and
but
far
it was
between.
a real thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah, mine was the Trent affair because they wanted not only what the incident was, but they wanted the names of the two
Mason
guys.
and
And I was
Fidel.
like, I know this.
I know. We all knew it because that's the one thing I remember from high school. It's one of the few things I remember from high school. But how
And
about
then it
this?
was
What
like
was the
you
question?
Google later.
What was the question?
Yeah.
Who were the lawyers that represented somebody or something?
Oh yeah, forget that.
What the
For-
hell?
That was for
what-
Meade's deposition or the
Oh yeah. No. That was who were the senators that were like the
Yeah.
cheer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
only
No,
got one of
but
those.
there was one that was like, who are the lawyers that represented? And I forget, was it in the Dred Scott case? Oh, I can't
I don't-
remember.
I don't remember what
I don't know
was.
if was that even a question.
It was a Dred
Part of
Scott
me does
question.
wonder-
It was a Dred Scott question, yes, but I don't
Yeah.
know if there was anything about lawyers in there. I know the senators for the Joint Committee on the Conduct of the War.
Yes.
That question was on
I
there.
feel like there was one about lawyers representing people in some case. I don't remember.
But yeah, there were multiple questions like that made you go, I know this.
Yeah, there were certain
Oh.
ones that I would, like the lawyer one, I would read and I would just go, "Pfft," and
Or-
I'd move on.
Or in this case,
Yeah.
for example, the entire section on the history of guiding, and
Yes.
and we were given a whole document with the history of guiding, and I'm sitting here going, man, I should have read that a little bit closer,
Yeah.
and I should have read that more.
Recently read it.
I-
And I've written note cards out, and
Yeah.
yet at least two of those questions I didn't get.
I heard
Yes.
about that attachment in the email after, and I said, this is why I should check my emails.
yeah.
So,
I know
but wait a second. That's not the thought that went through my head when I read the questions about the history of guiding. I said, oh, me and Jason did a show about this just 2 months ago.
Not even.
What is the answer?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
can't remember the answers.
Yep.
And it's, I don't think anything would have helped that. I think a new brain, I need a brain transplant or if there's some kind of medication. But
Especially at that point, because at that end, you're like scrambling to finish.
Yeah.
And at
Yeah.
that point, I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, oh, crud, I am behind.
Mm.
So that was the rampant end for me, which was just like, oh, God, I miscounted how much time I have here based on how many questions.
And,
I mean,
and
when each question was like, there was few and far between that had one answer, one blank. Most of them had anywhere from 2 to 24 for each question. So
There was a whole
yes.
how do you judge your length of time when you're dealing with something like that? It's a mountain.
there's a whole page that's like it was 8 different.
Debbie, move more
Brigade.
into the shot. You see yourself up there? You're like half.
I don't want
everybody's
to be like sitting in Jamie's lap.
well,
Oh, come on in. We've been close for months.
right. These are the sacrifices we made.
Anyway, there was a whole page that was like
Can you just move back out of the shot? All right, fine. There's a whole page. Go ahead.
of I think it was like 8 different corps badges.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you had, but each that was like one question with A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
each of those was 3
Yep.
blanks.
yeah.
So
Or
it
how?
was
Or
hard.
the same with the pictures of monuments.
Yes.
Yep.
It was or just locations of things. It was 4. So I get 3 of them,
Yeah.
4 of them. Like,
Yeah.
And now, how about the one that sketch? Does
Oh.
anybody
Oh, my
know
word.
who?
Alfred Woad. Alfred
No,
Woad.
I disagree
Alfred
with you.
Woad for the win. Look it up.
No, that's really him.
It is.
And now here's why I say no. I'm looking at it and I go, whose style is that? That looks so
Thank you.
unfamiliar to me.
Thank
like
you,
it
thank
doesn't.
you.
I thought Woad because everything's Woad. So that was my first answer, and I start doing the W and I go, wait, his figures are never that perfect.
right.
It's always so scribbled.
always
Yeah,
scribbly,
it's a
yeah.
sketch,
So I'm going,
Yeah.
not a drawing.
yeah.
And then I go, well, maybe it's Forbes. And I
That's
go,
what
no,
I put
same
down.
with Forbes. It's just a sketch.
yeah.
And
It
so
was-
how do you? This is definitely Alfred Woad.
It's definitely Alfred Woad.
I know he broke my heart with that one pretty
Yeah,
quick.
because that was my first answer. And
I'm going, Charles Reed.
And you, for anyone who may in the future be taking this, you do have to be careful because, like I said, I went through it once and then I went back and tried to see if I could remember more of the things that I couldn't remember the first time around. And there were a few that I was like, oh, yeah, it's that, and could answer the question.
Yeah.
But I also talked myself out of a right answer.
Oh, I did that several times,
And I was like,
including Alfred Woad.
Yeah.
that wasn't mine. Mine was the Slocum statue.
What was that question?
The picture,
Yeah.
it was
Oh.
the picture with
Of
Slocum in the
Stevens
background.
Stevens
Yeah.
battery. Yeah.
I talked myself out of that because of the angle of the picture. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't see the cannon that would tell me that it's Slocum.
Yeah.
So
Stevens.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
that
What?
because one of the questions
Yeah.
was who's the guy
Yes.
on the statue
Oh,
in
yes.
the background.
Yes.
And so I talked myself out of
Well,
it. So
that's-
you do,
I mean-
if you do that, you do have to be careful that
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
Well, and
overthink everything.
and I was like, oh, this is easy. And I went and I just wrote Slocum, and I go, oh, they want both names. And I went back and I wrote John. Nope, it's not John.
yeah.
It's Henry. And
I think
that's
a
the
lot
other
of
thing.
us were doing that with first names.
A lot of people said that outside, that everybody's name was either John or James, and I was like, "Oh, you're an idiot too?" Because that's what it was for me. And that's the thing. Okay, so
Yeah.
we go in there in the morning. We're all waiting outside. Everybody's talking. Friends find each other, and we all talking. Oh. But overall, overwhelmingly, it was a very positive experience. I think
Yeah.
everybody was in a good mood. The what?
Ken says it was Samuel Wilkerson's drawing of his son Bayard Wilkerson.
Well, good, Mike. Look it up, Mike.
Okay.
Yes, Ken Rich is watching.
Thank
who also
you.
took the test.
Hey, Kenny.
Thank you, Ken.
So anyway, or maybe that's the
Yeah,
answer he
because-
put. It could be wrong.
It could
because-
be.
Yeah, because it was towards the painting. So he was. It is woad. It is woad. Ken, you got it wrong. Sorry. So okay, so
Paint
at first you
continues.
start with a loose
Yeah.
sketch, and then you tighten it up, which is what we were looking at there, and then you
Yeah.
paint it. All right, I should have known that.
That's annoying. But again,
Yeah.
that's one of those things. And someone in here commented that he says, judging from the 5 minutes I've been watching, I take it there may be no new guides at all this time. I
Well,
doubt that.
honestly, okay. So obviously there are going to be some, right?
Yeah.
There's,
yeah.
it's of course.
Yeah.
Okay, but I was very surprised and almost, I was relieved for myself, but I actually was sad for a lot of people, you included, because when you came out at lunch, or when I saw you at lunchtime, and I looked you in the face, and you had this look like you just pooped your pants. And I was like,
Sure,
and
we
then
all
you
had
kind of
some
just shook your head, and I was like, really? And you're like, well, no, I did all right. But some of and then you and many other people we were talking to all had the same problem with the same questions. And you guys studied
Yeah.
Yeah.
and prepared,
Yeah.
and I didn't. And I was like, good. Not because,
I know
not
what you
because,
mean, yeah.
not because I wanted you guys to fail, but because I was like, okay, so I'm not an
Even the people
total
who
idiot.
studied are getting the same.
Yeah,
ones
like
wrong.
this. Yeah, and I was like
Yeah.
beating myself up for not knowing this stuff because I know I've heard it all in this
Yeah.
room probably,
Yeah.
but I can't recall it all.
Yep.
So yeah, but otherwise though, everybody was very supportive of each other.
Oh, yeah.
There was laughter, and I think there was this great overwhelming sense of finally this is
Like,
here.
we're
here. Oh, yeah.
Let's get this
All
over
the
with.
anxiety can just kind of fall away
Yeah.
because now you know what it is.
Yes.
Well, because when
Exactly.
when I first opened it up and I started answering questions, and I started to hit ones, and I'm going, no idea. Okay, next, and then it was like the next one, and then the next, no idea was closer, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, you know what? Let's just have fun with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
really, I hit a spot where I was like, I relaxed into it instantly because it was like,
Yes.
it is what it is. So let's see what I
How
see what I can
far
do.
in did you say that was? Like halfway, more than halfway?
I was really about a quarter of the way in. So I swear
Yeah,
to
okay,
God.
so me
Yeah.
too. It was about a quarter of the way in.
Yep.
Once we got past the battle stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right?
When
Or
I-
once we got past the first day's battle stuff, because
Right.
they spread it out, right? And then I don't remember what that next section was, but that's where I started to like stumble.
Yeah.
And I said, what the frig is this?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I said the same thing. Let's just have fun with this because you're not going to get that.
It was when I
I-
realized I had I'd studied the wrong things.
Yeah.
Or it was that moment where I went, no, everyone said know that order of battle,
Yeah.
down to brigade. And I did that.
Yeah.
And I did
So
that,
did
and
I,
I did
yeah.
that, and I did that. And then they were asking for regimentals.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I said,
Whenever anyone tells you, you don't necessarily have to go down to regiment level.
You do.
Screw them. Yes, you do.
you do.
Well, You might not have had to when the people who told us that took the
right.
test. But there were like some of the okay. So 7th New Jersey Colonel.
Yeah, Louis Francine.
I knew it was a girl's name.
Well, don't. Okay, hold up.
What?
I take objection.
Is your name Francine?
Well, in another life, yes. That's my side gig. We won't talk about that.
Oh my!
Okay.
That's how
Show
he
a little-
pays the bills.
Show a little leg on the
okay.
weekend. Yeah, okay.
Jeez.
That's going on the board.
Yeah. Mark that. Okay. I'll go find that beep later.
So, but why it's important is because the 7th New Jersey Monument is where Louis Francine was mortally wounded.
Yeah. I know. That was in the question. I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah. That was one of those because that was a
I wanted to say
multiple-
Jessica, Louise. Like I had all these girl names, but I wasn't Francine.
that was one of those that was
Francine
a
Lentz.
multiple blanks because it was the picture.
Yeah.
And it was they wanted to know
I got all of them except for Francine.
and see, I think the only one in that I got was that it was the Trossel farm in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, I knew. I was like, I know exactly on the field where that is.
Yeah.
Do I know who that monument is for? No, I do not.
Oh,
And I
that's
was
one of the
kicking
easy ones
myself.
to remember. You got to just commit that to your memory.
Apparently, I do.
7th New Jersey, Sickles Avenue,
And that's where I think
Burling's Brigade,
even if I don't make it through,
Francine.
I'm okay.
Burling's
because
everywhere.
He is everywhere.
Now I know that was a blind spot in my study.
Yeah.
Like Jamiee said,
So you guys didn't go out and do monuments ever, or
we did
We did.
some, but
We
not
did.
enough.
not enough.
No, no.
Yeah.
Or I would have recognized that angle on Stevens Knoll, and it wouldn't
Yeah.
have been an issue.
That's the thing. That's the big takeaway from all of this is nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to being on the field and seeing the field. Because how else would you get those questions off of the Father Corby statue?
Yeah.
How would you know that's the George Weikert farm? How would you know that's Big Round Top?
You know how mad I am
It's
about the
tough.
McLean farm photo they put on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never gone down that lane because I don't want to
I know.
irritate the people that live there.
Yeah. Yeah, they tell you not to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
Anyway,
Fran Feyock texted me, Annie Etheridge, 3rd Michigan, Mary Tepe, French Annie, 114th PA.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's just
Two
throwing
offs.
out some Vivandiers. And
That's one of those things I
I thought it was
never-
one of those mythical things.
Fran
like-
Feyock for the win.
know.
All right. Woo!
But yeah, it's all that stuff that
By the
you
way,
never
I'm
even
sorry.
thought about.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think Fran's doing a Zoom tomorrow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
On Thursday. Oh, yeah. Today's Tuesday. How do people do that if they want to do it?
Well, you have to find his
You have to
Facebook and all
go to
that.
Fran's Facebook.
I don't
Somebody
know.
posted it in one of the
Yeah.
other Gettysburg. It might have been past and present.
All right, go find that and then
Go find it. It's a Zoom
Yeah.
to Gettysburg.
Yeah.
It's what they
Yeah.
do for
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
licensed
yeah.
battlefield
Yeah,
guides.
yeah.
And so there's all the information you need to know
Yeah.
if you can find that post.
Yeah.
Usually on Facebook.
Okay, so you can go and do that too.
Also not
Thank
a
you,
bitch
Fran.
session according to the to the write up.
Oh,
Huh?
So it'll be. I said also it said not a bitch session.
Yes.
So yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's where I
But
got
yeah.
that from. I
Yeah.
was like,
So-
yeah, we
Yeah.
don't want to make this a bitch.
No.
I agree with Fran. Like, let's
Yeah,
not make it a bitch
absolutely
session.
not.
No, this is not.
It
So
was-
Fran was sitting in the hallway. I guess he was a hall monitor. Did they have hall monitors? Is that what they were doing?
Yeah.
So he was sitting outside the door across the hall from my room. And I go out and I see, it's nice to see a friendly face after going through that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I go through, I see Fran there, and he's like, "How'd you do, buddy?" And I was like, "Just shoot me." I said something like that. It
I had
was.
Fred Hawthorne was outside our room when I stepped out of that morning session. He goes, "How do you think you did?" And I was like, "Eh."
Yeah.
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 I said there was way more artillery than I thought there would be. He goes, "You're fine. You'll be fine."
And they take it, like, this was like, they take it seriously.
They
Uh-huh.
do.
I've never been in a testing situation this serious. Like, so you go in, you get your number or you get your room, right? You sign in and everything. You go to the room, and then they hand out the test packets, and these things are sealed,
Yep.
right? And I remember after I was finished with the test, I went out in the lobby. And this guy came up to me because I was crying, and he came up to me and he said, "Do you want to talk about what you just went through?" And I thought, oh, this is so nice. They have therapists on staff waiting for us.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Now he was from CBS, and I said, oh yeah, I'd like to talk to CBS. And then I realized before I went to get lunch, I had to pee. So I turn around and I go back, right? And Angie's coming the other way, and she like basically pulls out a shotgun. She's like, "Can I help you with something, Matt?" And I was like, well, "She didn't pull out a shotgun. I just get it." But she was like very clear, like, "You're not going. You shall not pass," right?
Yeah.
And she goes, "Can we help you something, Matt?" And I go, "Oh, I'm just going to the bathroom." She, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Wow, like you can't go back in once you leave. You can't go back." And then when we all went to lunch, they locked us out of the building, and it was freezing cold. We're all sitting out there like,
they told us we could not show up.
Nope, we couldn't,
like
yeah.
we had to be there by 8:15, no later than 8:15 in the morning. That is when the doors open.
Yeah.
Right.
When we all had left for lunch.
Yeah.
They
it was like
locked
visiting
those
Willy
doors,
Wonka's
and
factory.
they had said you can't, should be back by 1:15. That is when the doors opened.
I was
Kind of
I was
humorous.
very impressed with how it all works.
Yeah.
I was really
they had that down to a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, no, they really did. And I think that's why I wanted to take it. I just wanted to see what it was like.
Yeah.
You
Really.
know, and not to say like if I did do well on it and they said you're on to the next level, I'd go all the way until I wash out, right?
Yeah.
But like I've known these guys, the guides a long time. I know a lot of them. I know them well. And it's a certain type of mind that can really do that. And mine, I don't really think is there. I could talk to people. I could tell them stories. I could show them around. But to do the things you need to do to get to the point where they'll let you do that for money, I can't do that. I just know it. Like, next time I'm still going to study because now I want to try it.
Right.
And
when I
actually
studied.
make it,
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Now I want to see how I do on the written after studying.
Yeah.
Apparently, I plan to live to be 100. So I got all the time in the world. But no, I want to see how I do, after really giving it a good effort and everything. And of course, then next time it'll be completely about the battle and about nothing else but the battle. But that's fine.
I do want to give a shout out to all of those licensed guides who were there.
Absolutely.
They were freaking amazing.
Yeah, the
They were.
proctors.
And they were in sport coats, and I've never seen Rob Abbott
They were
look
all
so.
dressed up.
I know, very.
Rob Abbott looked
But-
so fancy.
I know, everybody was very fancy.
Every one of them was so kind.
Well, yeah,
And
they
they
know
were
the.
cracking jokes. They knew they had
Sure.
because they've all been there.
So,
So
Yeah.
they know what that tension
Yeah,
feels
they know the horror.
I have a story about that. So for Debbie and I in our room, our two proctors were Susan Strabello and Tracy Bear. And so what happened is I got done with my essay section and I'm going, I don't know. I don't feel good about this. So I close it. I put it in the envelope. I seal it up. I give it to Tracy. Tracy looks me in the eyes and says, "You did fine."
Yeah. Well, what the hell does he know?
But he knows Mike.
But
He knows Mike. And
but
so
that was a huge moment because I felt like I just got kicked in the where repeatedly over and over again, and to have someone who had been through all of that to say you did fine.
What if the trick of the test is all those extra battle things don't actually count? They're just grading the battle answers. What do you think
that would
about
be
that?
interesting.
That would be interesting.
That would be.
I still don't think I
don't think-
passed.
No,
Okay.
terrible.
Okay. So it
Because
was
everybody's name is John or James.
Or William.
That's right.
It was liberating, however, being in our room,
Archibald.
realizing, okay, I've got a chance here. And I'm sitting up front like I usually do because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I'm sitting up front, and walking in front of my table is John Heiser taking the test. And I'm going, well then.
And
So there's
now I'm screwed.
There's no curve on a 65 high score anymore.
Yeah.
It's a normal, regular old test. Yeah.
And there was a point.
That's true.
Because I saw him walk in and I thought,
Everybody's failing.
he's taking the test? And then I thought, why can't we just like grandfather him in? Like there's others that have honorary licenses.
No,
But then
because he
someone
wants
else-
to actually give tours.
Right, and that's
Sure.
what someone else pointed
Yeah.
out to me was this legitimizes him being able to give a tour.
Of course,
Nobody
and
can
I think
say
that would
he
be
didn't
great.
Earn it the way everyone else did.
So
Which is fine.
now,
But
something.
yeah, it was definitely one of those moments when he walked in. I was like, "Well, crap."
Something that, something that was pointed out to me, which is very true, is that the Latin root word of proctor and proctologist are the same. Thank you, Kenrich.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. It
All right.
was an experience. We were
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah.
exhausted afterwards. I do think I did better on essays than I did on fill in the
Hallelujah.
blank. But if I don't make it, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I said earlier, I'm not going anywhere.
The essays
I'm going
were-
to keep trying.
were my redemption because
Yeah.
I felt like I'd been whipped actually after the first part. And then when
Yeah.
I came back in and I read the first one and I said, okay, I got this.
I know
And then the
this.
second one and the third one, thankfully there were options.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had something I could write. I had something I knew about that I could choose
yeah.
one of those
Right.
and I could write the heck out of it. I just
Which
had
ones did you choose?
So I went with explain the monumentation up to the 50th anniversary.
Oh.
And then
Yeah, I went with that one too.
the other one was
You could either
the-
choose Lincoln's initial Reconstruction plan or the Lost Cause.
Lost
Yep.
Cause. That's what I did.
I
That's
did
what I did
I
too.
did
Lost
Abe
Cause.
Lincoln.
I just said the Lost
Lincoln's
Cause is
Reconstruction.
stupid in 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
You are now only like the second person I know who chose Lincoln's Reconstruction
Wow.
plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not a lot of people pick that I
I'm not
talked
going
to.
with that one. Yeah.
A lot of somebody said, and I thought this word was interesting. After it might have been you afterwards outside when we were waiting to get back in. They said they felt ambushed by those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that you?
Yeah, probably.
I
Totally. That's what it felt
Yeah.
like. Like there was just so many things I hadn't prepared for. And it was just like, oh, by the way.
my favorite was the 2 brigades that Pickett leaves behind in Virginia.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy heck, I never even thought about that because they're not here.
Right.
They're not part of the order
Yeah.
of battle, but
But
they are. If you read the Killer
yeah.
Angels, if
But
you,
perhaps if he had them,
Yeah.
there you go.
That's where it comes in.
and if
That's
Hood
my
was allowed to
question.
go around the right.
Right. But yeah, it was like, I never even thought about that.
Nope.
Never occurred to me.
Nope.
So
No, but
I get
that's-
it. There were multiple of them that I was like, ugh.
All right. So Debbie, well, go ahead. And then
Before we go any further on,
yes,
I think for as much time as we had in the lead up to it, going into it,
7
we really
years.
built it up. We built it up to be a whole lot worse
Oh,
than
yeah.
it actually was.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's also one of those things too where I can't adequately describe to you what it is. You have to be in that seat to know what that is.
Yeah.
And so, is it a difficult test? Absolutely it is.
Yes.
Is it this monster that you should be afraid of?
No.
No, it's not. And so it's just you have to be as prepared as you can be. And if your preparation wasn't good enough, find out where it wasn't good enough. If you didn't make it past the first time, come back and hit them again
Yeah.
when it gets called a few years
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whenever it gets called next.
try.
I am
Yeah.
already formulating in my head things I would do differently.
Well, okay,
The second round.
so let's say you're with me in that you're pretty certain you're not going to make the cut. Okay, so and you've said you're going to try again. So okay, Jamiee, you don't make the cut. What happens?
I instantly, well, I'm not going to lose anything that I already started. I mean, my only regret this year was I feel like I should have started with the order of battle sooner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was kind of planning out going into the exam was, all right, I'm going to take 10 minutes and just jot out all of the order of battle as fast as I can certainly go, so that I'll have it right there immediately at my disposal. And I didn't do that, but I didn't need to. So to me, it almost felt like, okay, I'm glad I knew some of those things, but I didn't actually need to do that.
Yeah.
But I will definitely do it again. Because I mean, it is ticket to being able to actually get out there on the battlefield with people and share the stories from here.
Ticket to Ride. It's a
Yeah.
Ticket to Ride. How about you, Mikey?
For me, I want to see where
You're
I
going to
land.
get it. What the hell are we talking about? Tracy already told you.
I want to see where I landed on this, and I want to see how I stack up.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, if I'm so far off the mark, which I don't think I am.
No, I don't think you are either.
But if I'm just a little bit off the mark, then I know, okay, where did I fall short this time? And it's just about formulating a plan of, all right, let's study for this. Let's start the process all over again. Now I know what it is. I've seen what it is. It's not this great mystery anymore. Time to buckle down, study what I need to study, and let's go.
Yeah. I picture it in my head is like, really what you need to do is become an expert on the Civil War, and then there's a peak at Gettysburg, just a peak.
Yeah.
And then you got to go back to the Civil War. Like you really need to, and I'm talking like 20 years before the Civil War, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Even
Somebody
20,
smarter
30
will tell
years
you that.
after the Civil War, too.
And well, maybe even up to,
Up to present day.
even
up to the present day. Yeah. It's a lot to know.
And it just keeps getting longer.
Yeah.
Because time keeps going.
And I think
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, in the end, and I don't know about you guys, but I had to do this to myself. I had to remind myself why I'm even doing this.
Exactly.
It's not.
You're like, why the hell am I doing this?
On Sunday.
It's for the children.
In a way, yes.
Yeah,
For the children. It's for the troops.
On Sunday, I planned to go up to Little Round Top and watch the sunset. And I
Better
did.
get out of there quickly. Okay.
And I sat there and was like, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
Like looking out on the entirety of that battlefield.
Yeah.
And looking around that there weren't a whole lot of people up there
No.
on a Sunday
It's
evening.
cold.
And it was cold. But
Sunday was nice though.
Sunday wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But it's like looking at those people and going, okay, that's the point, is to be able to tell this story.
Right.
The getting paid for it's kind of a bonus.
Yeah.
Honestly,
but
yeah.
Like you said,
it's
for
not
the
the reason.
children, in a
It's-
way,
yeah.
I keep telling myself, when I get to be a guide, and I'm calling it a when. It's just a matter of when I pass.
Don't
the
be one of
test.
those
And,
people. Just kidding.
you take out a busload of 8th graders. On every busload of 8th graders are going to be kids who are future teachers,
Yeah.
future congressmen,
Future podcasters.
and
No,
I have
most
the
people will
opportunity.
probably find a real living.
I have an opportunity as a guide to help them care about our history.
Absolutely.
Even if they decide that, their thing is really World War II or their thing is really the Revolution, that's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
If the spark happens here because of
Yes.
something I said,
Yes.
then those are the kids that we're handing this place off to.
Absolutely. That's what we're fighting for.
Yeah.
Is to present this to future generations so that they can value this, so that they can preserve this, so that they keep these stories alive. That's what we're going into this for. It's not about the money.
No.
You can have all
And
the
it's-
money in the world. That
There's
doesn't
zero- yeah.
matter.
At least for us, it's not about an ego trip either.
No, that.
Bullshit.
Because nobody...
I want the star.
Yeah.
because unless you read the Wall Street Journal this last week, no one really knows that this exists outside of Gettysburg. Okay,
Right, not an ego trip, guys.
It's not an ego trip.
Yeah. I believe, and you're right, it is about the children. I believe the children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Let them show the
That's the
beauty
point.
they possess inside and all that jazz.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I look, there's a couple things. So we had, I think our peak was 115 viewers here. We have 104 left. And I just want to know, show of hands in the chat section, ladies and gentlemen, just do the hand emoji. How many of you took the exam along with us?
There were at least a couple in here that did.
And with the waving hand emoji, I want you to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you think you made it or you didn't make it. I'm just curious. Just right there in the same line, if you don't mind. And let's see. Somebody just said, so this has to be one of the funniest shows you've produced, Lieutenant Dan. Grant says, come on, people. Have some faith and confidence in yourselves. Matt and Deborah have a good chance of passing. No, we don't, right, Deb? No, we're screwed. Derek Mills says, dumb question. When do we hand our scores back and what will the score be out of? Okay, I don't know. We don't know. They don't tell us anything.
Best guess would be in January.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That's
a
around
guess.
Jason was telling us that was 143 actually showed up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all those fill in the blanks have to be hand
drawn
hand graded, plus 3 essays for all 143 of those people.
Absolutely.
So
That's
a
a lot of reading.
It's a lot of reading.
I
and
do not
if
envy Angie and her group.
No, if people's handwriting isn't legible, just imagine, what they have to go through. The amount of new prescription lenses people are going to have to get after reading that exam. So I'll tell you, the morning of, I went to Little Round Top and I rubbed Patty's nose. Did you guys do that?
Sent us a picture, though.
Okay.
I'm adamantly against that poor man. Rub the buttons. Rub the buttons. Why would you rub his nose?
That's the tradition.
We need a new
Apparently,
one.
I should do that next time.
We need a new one.
It didn't help me.
Poor man.
So I go and I rub his nose, and then on the way back, I'm driving up Sedgwick and Hancock Avenue, and I say, you know what? I'm going to play the opening title to Gettysburg, and I'm going to play it loud because nobody's here. I had the windows closed. And as I was playing it, it kind of dawned on me that movie 30 years ago, started this whole thing for me. If it weren't for that movie, I would not, at the time I was thinking, would not be on my way to take this exam. Yeah. And ultimately I would not be sitting doing this. I wouldn't know you guys because of a stupid friggin' movie, right? My whole life on a 30-year-ish delay, 25-year delay, wouldn't be the way it is if it were not for that film. And I go, I keep saying I didn't study, but I've been studying my whole life. I've been preparing for this my whole life. So maybe I might actually have a chance today. I didn't have a chance, but I did get welled up a little bit because it's it's a weird thing. And I feel like such a cheeseball saying this because it's a movie and a test, but we love this so much, this subject. And I was never willing to wait for a test to be given in order to tell the story. So this is what I did, along with studying for the exam. But we all love it so much, and that's why I think it means so much to people, because as we said before, we want to share this thing that matters to us, that we think is an important part of American history with the drooling, slack-jawed public. And what?
Oh, man.
What?
He has less faith in them than we do, apparently.
I'm sorry. I just watched the news. And Jerry Springer.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, another child from the 80s.
Yeah. So, so I mean, I don't know. It was a nice moment for me, especially because nobody was on the field except for one person on Little Round Top, but nobody for the rest of the trip out, to Steinway. And then the as I'm going through these places, listening to that music, thinking the thought I just thought about my life, and then realizing the gravity, as you almost, again, cheesy, but you could almost feel the souls around you of the men who died as I'm driving through everywhere on either side of me, the lives that were lost. And it is a very serious story. In fact, and actually, when I was getting up to the angle, I started thinking of Fran's rendition of Pickett's Charge on the anniversary show that we did, and what poetry that was. And, that this event inspires all these things out of people, and people use their talents in different ways to tell this story. If you're a painter like Dale Gallen or someone like that, you're going to paint, and you're going to paint these stories. And if you have a way with words like Fran, you're going to think about it, and you're going to lean back on your experience, as in his case, in the medical profession, and you're going to give medical reasons, biological reasons why the body does what it does in a traumatic, terrified state, and the smells and all of these senses, you're going to appeal. That is such a talent to be able to do that. And I remember when we recorded that, we were sitting in my car, and I had a microphone, he had a microphone, and I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to do it at this point because he was one of the early interviews. And so at first I started as an interview, but then when he got on a roll, I just put the microphone in my lap, and I was like, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to let these guys tell stories, and I'm not going to say anything. It's not going to be an interview. It's going to be just them. And it was because of Fran that I decided to do that, because of the way he did that. I just talking about it now, I get chills, and I can't listen to it because it moves me. I do listen to it, but it's hard to listen to because it moves me so much. And these people that help with the show, the guides that come on the show, are, I'm not saying they're the best of all of them because I don't know all of them, but they are fantastic. Right, they are truly talented people. They're educators. We lost Rick Schrader earlier this year, but I was talking to somebody about him, and I felt that man had the heart and soul of an educator.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And every time I talked to him, I always wanted to ask him questions, medical questions, right?
Well, you know me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so and he never got impatient with me. He never tried to rush me along, except for one time he had to go do a tour. But otherwise, he was always there to answer whatever question I had. And that's the thing. I think there's some people who, we mentioned ego before, and I've seen some signs out there of, I'm doing this because I'm going to be blah, 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 right? And I think, okay. But the truly great, how do I say this? The guide that gets through to me the most is the one who I feel puts the education of the public above the money he's going to get off that tour, the attention he gets for anything. Lewis is another one.
Oh, yeah.
He loves doing the Get Out of the Car tours because he gets to share this story that moves him. The guy cries on every other tour, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much.
But he loves it, and he admires these men so
Absolutely.
much. And his story, he wants to keep their story alive.
Absolutely.
And I really believe that, written test aside, if anybody can get over the hurdle, over the finish line, that's the thing that's going to resonate with people the most, because that's the human side of you, and you're talking about the human cost and the human sacrifice and valor and all these things that make us good and bad and ugly. And it comes out in wars, and this is such a great place to tell those stories because all those stories are there,
and they happened here.
Well, not in this office, but yes, they happened around us, all around us.
Yeah.
So and so I loved the whole experience. I had a great time taking that test, even though I'm never going any further than that. And
Despite how crappy we felt afterwards, we had fun.
Yeah, no, we did. And I just appreciate even more what the licensed guides, the currently licensed guides, well, all of them, even the ones that are no longer with us, of course, really what they are made of, because it's not something anybody can walk off the street and do.
No. Absolutely.
And clearly it's not anything that a podcast host can do. All right, let's see. Let's see here.
Now, there's a whole other podcast out there with two guys who are licensed guides, so clearly you can.
But they became podcast hosts after being guides.
This is true.
So let's see. We got 1, 2, 3 people who raised their hand. Only one of them put a thumbs down. That's okay. That's all right. That's all right. Derek Mills says, Matt sounds like Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. Well, a lot of people have compared me to him. Matt A. says, there's another cool thing about Gettysburg and being connected. In some small way, you become part of history of the place. That is true. And I think that is pretty cool if you appreciate history and the place. Yeah, I always, somebody said that to me a while ago, and I thought they were crazy. But then I think about it, and I mean, someday people are going to be doing talks in Sweeney's Tavern about Tim Smith.
Yeah.
Right? And the influence that he had on the history of, and Gary.
Yeah.
And, and Jim Hessler. And
you.
No, I'm not a historian.
Oh, no.
I'm not a historian.
Yes, you are.
Oh, shut the I know you're absolutely right. And
If they're going to talk about, Jim and Eric, they'd have to throw you in the
I didn't
conversation.
say Eric.
Too.
I said Jim. No, of course Eric. No, but they're going to be talking about a lot of people, and that's the beauty of it is, you leave a mark. If you do something here, even if you just have a little tchotchke shop, someone will say, remember Mike's Tchotchkes? Oh, yeah, we used to go there every summer. I wonder what happened to that place. So that's the beauty of this place is that it's people love it. People want to know about it. People want a piece of it. And it's just, I've met the greatest people ever doing this here. So I don't care that I'm not going to be a licensed guide because there's people that are cut out for that, and it ain't me.
No.
But I'm gonna keep trying. I'm just saying. I gotta gird my loins and really like buckle down for the next. That's two things.
But now
girding
we have
and
the
buckling
foundation
down.
to work off.
Yeah. And I look forward to growing up and maturing enough to be able to do this.
Okay, but that
one
I'm going to
says you have
disagree and say that's never happened.
No. In fact, I'm pretty sure those are actually.
And in fact,
it's a requirement to actually just be a goofball smartass. I think to be an LBG.
don't you dare grow up.
No.
I won't. It's impossible. All right, guys, listen. I'm hungry. Thank you very much for coming and doing this. Debbie, I hope you guys actually do make it. I mean, you were in the Wall Street Journal, for God's sake. It's going to be embarrassing, right? You get all that attention. Yeah.
No one said they were coming back, so.
No. Well, I scooped you. I scooped you, Wall Street Journal. I got their after action report before you. Okay. And the way the media's been going lately, I probably have more views than you do. So I'm just kidding. You just should have talked to me. I wouldn't be so mean. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have yourselves a great night. Where am I looking? We're over here. Have yourselves a great night. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Happy holidays to you all.